Welcome, friends, family, ladies and gentlemen, to the first 2021-2022 NFL season episode of the AFC Northcast. This is Joey, and I, as always, am joined by the lovely Chad. What's left of Alan Faneca? I'm good. I'm good. It's a season of hope for everybody, despite a little bit of a rocky road. Everybody in the division is undefeated still after playing some games, and yeah, I'm just ready for the season to start. To celebrate this occasion, and I feel like it was a very topical drink, I am enjoying some Dr. Pepper because the Ravens need a damn doctor. Everybody's hurt. Marlon Humphrey had a scare this morning in practice. Half the offensive line is hurt. We haven't seen any of our receivers play in any type of live action. Um, yeah, man. It just is what it is. The defense is doing all right. Our backup quarterback is gone, and we had to sign some other guy just so we can have not Lamar Jackson throwing the guys on Saturday. So somebody call a doctor. Cheers, buddy. Mm, yeah, yeah. Those fine performances are few and far between. There's a headline. This is a perfect segue to start talking about the Pittsburgh Steelers, the first team that we're going to talk about. Last year's division winners coming in, made some pretty nifty splashes since the last time we saw you guys, which would probably be around the draft. Um, yeah, Kevin Dotson. Uh, Basically, so I use the USA Today has like team sites for everybody: Bengals Wire, Steelers Wire, Ravens Wire. You get it. And there's a headline on Steelers Wire that was like, basically like, why does Mike Tomlin squandering Kevin Dotson? And I was like, what? But it has been quite a precipitous fall for Kevin Dotson. People were calling him the best lineman from last season. And what's going on? Well, it's funny because uh, most of them mathematically were inducted in this like fake Hall of Fame class from last year where they bypassed the normal induction procedure and just picked a bunch of guys that weren't in it yet to go in. So that's certainly interesting. He's so undeniable that it took him 35 years after retiring to get in the Hall of Fame. Legend. Oh well, damn. I just we've just been sitting here quiet for a while then. That's fun. Let's try this. Say something, young man.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Oh,
I'm here.
yep, yep. There it is. All right. I think we should be good now. Video is all
Damn
jacked
it,
up for
Joey.
me. Roddy says, "Listen, everybody. I've got a new computer, a new computer for
Fuck.
work, and to be quite
You,
frank with you, it's a big piece of shit. And so,
you
audio
are
should be
absolutely
good.
killing me. I had one of the great intros of all time, including a quote from Alan Faneca's freaking Hall of Fame speech. You cut out Bill Cowher's Hall of Fame speech. You cut out me making fun of you as a fake racist and Bill Nunn's qualifications as a Hall of Famer.
So we got like 4/5 of the way through what everybody except Steelers fans were going to fast forward through, anyways, which is Chad celebrating Steelers players from 50 years ago.
I'm going to calm down. I'm going to calm down because I'm pretty sure that was on purpose. This is a classic Baltimore move. Classic Baltimore move. It almost makes me not even want to celebrate the other three Hall of Famers because we talked about Donnie Shell's 51 career interceptions, which is like epic right there with Deion Sanders and Asante Samuel and other classics, Champ Bailey. But I'm going to press on, Joey, because I am not going to let Baltimore and your naysaying, dumpy attitude ruin this for me. Next is Alan Faneca. And we've already talked about Alan Faneca. We're going to talk about him again, son, because he's awesome. He was all pro 6 times. It would have first team all pro, would have been 7 years in a row. But in 2003, he was second team all pro because he played left tackle instead of guard. And we love Alan Faneca. You even admitted it via text. I don't know if you'll do it today. He said that that was the easiest season of his career because all he had to do was just stand in front of a guy. He didn't get beat up in his body at all. Alan Faneca, pulling guard, paved the way for guys like Marshall Yonda, who are going to dive into the Hall of Fame probably a lot quicker than he did, and deservedly. So he was awesome. And then you've got your new legends. I'm not going to talk about him that much. Bill Cowher, who brought the Steelers the one for the thumb, brought us back to the promised land, the jaw, the chin, the spittle. I mean, that's Hall of Fame worthy in and of itself if you're a moments guy like me. And of course, Palomalu played with his hair on fire, and what a comet it was. Am I right, Joey? He was fierce. He was awesome. Obviously, we're not going to get into the Ed Reed versus Troy Polamalu debate. But Palomalu deserved to be there with his bust somewhere in the same hall as Mr. Reed. So we're really excited. It was an awesome, awesome time. And one of the reasons I wanted to bring it up, 5 Steelers went into the Hall of Fame at the same time. Do you know how many teams in the NFL have 5 or less total Hall of Famers?
I mean, like Jags, Titans, Texans, for sure. I'm trying to think. We're gonna do this.
You've got 2 of them. You don't. I can tell them to you if you want. They both have 0.
Well, I guess the Titans are actually the Oilers, and so they would have lots of people.
Yeah.
Panthers, Ravens.
Those are the 3 with 0. The Ravens have 3.
Right. It's less than 5, right?
Yeah, or equal to. I'm going to save you because this is terrible radio. It's 10 teams, Joey. 10. No, Minnesota's got a bunch. It's in no particular order, actually, from least to most, 0 to 5. Jacksonville, Houston, Carolina all have 0. Cincinnati has 1, Anthony Munoz. Baltimore has 3. You don't have to talk about how it's only 20 years old. We know you're good at drafting. You'll get there. Settle down, please. Atlanta has 4. New Orleans has 4. Seattle has 4. Tampa Bay and New England each have 5. Here's an interesting one, though, for you, because I don't want to leave anyone in the AFC North out. Cleveland has 17, which is pretty good. But guess how many of those 17 played any of their career after the AFL-NFL merger?
Like 2.
5. 5 of those players played after 1966. So here's the deal. Getting 5 people into the Hall of Fame all in one 2-day celebration is huge. I'm not trying to say the Steelers are a better organization than your organization or any other organization. I'm just saying that my weekend was better. That's all. It's not a big deal. We're not necessarily better. We just have evidence based on everybody that matters voting and statues that maybe we're better. That's it. No big deal.
You know how many Steelers fans it takes to change a light bulb? It never gets changed because they won't
0?
stop talking about the past.
That's a good one, Joey. That's a good one. I like that.
So let's
talk that. I'm not going to try and make a witty rebuttal there.
About the present and the future for your Pittsburgh Steelers.
Ew.
We've had 2 preseason games so far. And we already talked about Kevin Dotson. He's a stock down guy. I'd venture to say 2 guys traveling in possibly opposite directions are Mason Rudolph and Dwayne Haskins. You got any positions you want to talk about or players you would like to highlight?
Yeah. I'm going to kind of start with I only took a few notes because, look, we're talking about like preseason. We're not going to go through the narrative of the game or anything. But the Steelers played Dallas in the Hall of Fame game So they have an extra preseason game this year. No starters played at all. So like, don't expect me to detail a lengthy scoring drive or anything about that. But there were players that did stand out. Alex Highsmith has been getting rave reviews in camp, and he is a big question mark because this is his first year as like an expected starter. He's a second year in the league, and he came out, got a sack on his patented spin move, which we talked about a little bit on the podcast last year. And that's what you want him to do, right? Like, look, you can make your jokes. He's playing against backups or whatever. But the point is he dominated those backups. He got tons of pressure. He got a sack. And so he's looking good. And he continued to look good in the second preseason game also. So Steelers are actually feeling pretty good about their outside linebackers again, especially with the addition of Melvin Ingram. And I think we'll probably go more into that later because, in all honesty, he hasn't really played yet. He played a handful of snaps in week 2. And hopefully on a later podcast, we might do a fun little comparison because it turns out every team in the AFC North felt like they needed a good, if not great, veteran addition on their edge rushing capability. So we might do a little player comparison there. Melvin Ingram for the Steelers seems like he's going to be a good one. But Highsmith is playing well enough that it looks like he's still going to start. We'll see. Kendrick Green played a lot in both preseason games. He was the Steelers' third-round draft pick. And basically presumed starter at center this year after the retirement of Marquise Pouncey. He played a lot in the Hall of Fame game, and I thought he looked pretty good. He's very fast on screens. He almost looks like a linebacker, except he's on offense, like the way he runs and gets ahead of it. He's got a ton of athleticism to get excited about, but he isn't all the way there with harnessing it yet. So like, I'm not trying to send him to the Pro Bowl. And he got exposed a little bit in the second week or week 1 of the preseason against the Eagles because they played their starting defensive line, and they're good. And he's a rookie. So he got bullied a couple times. I'm not going to lie. So just remember when I'm saying nice things, I'm not saying the Steelers' offensive line is elite or maybe even average, but he's handled himself reasonably well for the development. So we're pretty excited about him, but it should be noted that he got whooped a little bit against the Eagles. All the starting receivers look pretty good. Chase has caught a deep ball. Deontay caught a deep ball on a slant, and hasn't dropped anything yet. That's all seems fine. James Washington may or may not want to trade. What are you going to do? We got a bunch of good wide receivers. What do you want me to tell you? Like, I don't know, Joey. People get upset when they don't get to play. That's fair.
Classic Steelers.
You know?
Just wide receivers everywhere.
Dude, it's hard. It's a hard life having all this talent. And losing in the first round of the playoffs. I think it's fair to say that everyone is very excited about Najee Harris. He's showing serious power in the running game. It's going to make me sound a little homerish because his longest run is like 13 yards, and it was called back for holding on second round pick Pat Fryermuth's first frickin' play. He got a holding penalty. Nice job with the blocking. Anyway, Najee looks great. He's strong. He's already tried to hurdle 2 different people. He's going to do that all the time. It's going to be so scary. He's just not going to stop hurdling people, Joey. He's just not. He can jump so high and he loves it. It's like, how can you take something that someone loves so much away from them? You can't. You can't do it as a person. So we're going to let him do it. He's just going to jump over people sometimes. And let's see, Presley Harvin. Oh my God. He was probably the Steelers' best player in week 1, 7th round punter draft pick. 1 second. Way to fill the void, Joey. Presley Harvin is a sick punter. He's fat.
Big old fat
It
boy.
doesn't matter, dude. Oh my God. He hit a punt in week 1 that bounced like 3 times inside the 1 yard line. It was like physically impossible. I looked it up in some textbooks. And then in week 2, he was so awesome again. Oh, wait, no, he didn't even get to punt in week 2. That was Jordan Berry responding to the call of competition. We're going to pull a Ravens. We're going to trade a punter for a 5th-round pick. And we need to because we don't have like any picks in next year's draft, turns out. So that's good. What else is good? The offensive line picked it up a little in week 2. And this is where I counter your Dotson stock down thing because Chukwuma Okafor, and he's going to start at left tackle, and Green got kind of bullied by the Eagles starters. It was a little rough. But then our second stringers came in, which included 4th-round pick Dan Moore, who I basically told you guys to ignore this year, and Kevin Dotson, who's been playing second string because Mike Tomlin's mad at him because he hurt his ankle and hasn't practiced enough. Kevin Dotson treated those people like children, Joey. He treated those second stringers like children. He was like, Joey, what are you doing out here thinking you deserve to be in the NFL? And he just like he's tossing people out of the club. So he's back with the first stringers. He's fine. And I'll tell you what, if you've got any nervousness about Zach Banner or Chukwuma Okafor, Dan Moore is pushing. He's a little pusher. He's not great. So I'm not telling you to root for him to start, and he's not gonna. But they actually have some youngsters that are going to compete and push each other to be better than they are. And Dan Moore has looked really good and really athletic, frankly, getting out on those screens. So, like, stuff good is happening, man. The front 7, I didn't really watch that much because they're really good and most of the best players weren't playing. But they're deep, dude. They're deep. Quincy Roche is pretty good. He was their like 6th-round pick, and he might not even make the team because they picked up this unrestricted free agent, Jameer Jones. He's number 44. He keeps sacking people. He sacks people every game, Joey. Like, he's got to get reps with higher tier opposition because he's dominating and he's doing well on special teams, which is how you make the team in that sort of situation. Because it's not like they're going to put Quincy Roche on the field to pass rush. They got Melvin Ingram, Alex Highsmith, and TJ freaking Watt if he ever plays. Pay the man, Rooney. So it's been good. 2 games, lots going on. You know, it's been good. They won. Not that it really matters.
It's always good to win.
Yeah. So yeah, man, I feel good. I feel like, I'm going to keep watching the offensive line. The starters haven't played together yet, even in practice. Because Zach Banner's coming back from an ACL injury, and Trey Turner got signed late. I don't even know if we talked about that on the podcast, but he was on the Chargers the last like 5 years, and he made a Pro Bowl, but then had some injuries, and we'll see if he's any good. He has not looked great so far. The offensive line is going to be the key to the Steelers having any success this year, and I mean, they don't even need to be like great, but they need to do something. And something would start with playing together for me.
Right on. Any take on so probably keep 3 quarterbacks. Do you think Haskins has a real case for being QB2 by the end of preseason? I thought Mason Rudolph looked pretty good against the Eagles.
Yeah, I'll admit that I wasn't really watching the quarterbacks closely, but they're on the screen throwing the ball. I thought in week 1 they were both piddling around with it too much, throwing short of the chains on 3rd down, stuff like that. Mason had the one deep throw to Chase, so I kind of credit him there. Mm-hmm. And in the second game, they both got a little bit better about trying to read it a little deeper. The general agreement is that Haskins outplayed Mason, but I thought Mason looked pretty good. He had a couple drives derailed by penalties that weren't really his fault. So I think Haskins is gaining ground, and the rumor is via Steeler Depot that Haskins did take some reps ahead of Mason Rudolph in practice after this last game. So I think it's a real competition for the backup quarterback position, and they will definitely keep 3. So
yeah.
See you later, Josh Dobbs. We love you. Sorry. I do love you. Great 3rd down throw against the Ravens from the end zone a couple years ago. Sick. In the heart. Yeah, man. We'll see. Cam Sutton probably should play better since he's going to start at corner. Here's hoping.
And so, yeah, I mean, the Steelers do have a lot of depth. That has been evident. We already talked about the front seven, and we'll get into Melvin
Yeah, louder milk.
Ingram later. Yeah, I know. All name team.
Dude, he's good. He's good.
Of course he's good. When he was drafted, I was like, oh,
here's
hell.
louder milk.
Yeah.
They traded like a 5th round pick to get him. Nobody thought he was going to get drafted. I was like, great. They're going to freaking cut this guy that they traded a draft pick to get up and get. But he's getting pressure. He's actually good. At least against backups, which is, how you get on a roster and practice against good players and get better. So what do you know? All name team, Loudermilk, Isaiah Loudermilk, TV name for the ages.
There you go. And I feel like so far in the preseason, even though everybody has won, I think the Steelers and the Ravens have like an obvious advantage in depth over the other two teams in the division. But I mean, they're more established. They're at different like phases in the life cycle of like a franchise trying to win than the Bengals and the Browns are, and so I think a little bit of it is expected. But if you're ready to rock on to Baltimore,
I think there's one other thing we should address, and I'm like amazed that with your cat sitting right above you on the couch, I'm going to give you the opportunity to make fun of Devin Bush's Twitter if you need to for a minute. Didn't hear about it.
I saw a headline about it, but I did not explore it any. The last I've heard of Devin Bush is he was hating on players who TikTok. And I was like,
He's had a crazy, weird offseason, and his use of social media is awkward. Let's just put it that way. I didn't watch it, but he posted some sort of video of like a cat falling from a large height to its probable death. And he didn't do it in like a sad way. So he got like, what do they say what do the kids say? Canceled. He got canceled. He got canceled. He might have got canceled a little bit. I'm starting to cancel him because he keeps letting tight ends get open in the seam, but that's just me. So that's the reason I mostly wanted to bring it up. He's had like a weird off season. He's recovering from ACL surgery, but he's still an athlete. He looks like he's going to be good. And the Steelers just traded this week a 6th round pick for former All AFC North team member Joe Schobert. How about it? And get this, he was owed $7 million this year. Jacksonville's paying 3.6 of it.
Steal. AFC North. It's an annual tradition to fleece the Jaguars, it seems like.
I'll tell you what, like normally I feel like this is the Ravens' prerogative. Like they do the highway robbery, but this feels a little bit like highway robbery to me. Like last year, the Jaguars signed him to a 5-year, $50 million contract. The dude averages like 130 tackles a year. He's had 7 interceptions in the last 2 years, which is more than any other linebacker. And the Steelers get to find out if they like him for a cool $2 million.
Yep.
And there's no dead money because all of the signing bonus is the Jags. The only dead money is that the remaining $2 million of the 7 or 3 the Steelers have to pay. $1 million of it is guaranteed because he's a veteran. The other 2 they made a signing bonus. So if they cut him next year, they'll have to pay that as dead money. That's it. That's what it costs to find out if Joe Schobert is good. Hey, top secret information, he's good.
Yeah, he's still good. It's easy to forget about him because he went to Jacksonville. And I mean, really, before he was in Jacksonville, he was in Cleveland. And so most people outside of like the general vicinity of Cleveland football, like we are, probably didn't even know about him to begin with. Yeah, he's super, at the very least, going to be solid and better than Spillane. And the Steelers are going to entrust him with the green dot. He's a veteran, so I think just seeing how he meshes in with everybody will be interesting to keep an eye on as far as like communication and stuff goes. But defensive playbooks are not like so super crazy that there's anything he shouldn't be able to like pick up.
In an interview, Joe Schobert said, and this is true because in Cleveland they change coaches every year, this will be the 6th time he's had to learn a new system in 6 years. This is the only way he knows. Every single year he's done a new system. So whatever he did before, it's always in a new system. And like, yeah, the Steelers told him he might wear the green dot. Like, look, don't panic, Steelers. Don't panic about Devin Bush. Don't panic about anybody. Do you believe in competition? Do you believe in meritocracy? Joe Schobert and Devin Bush are now competing, and they're brothers. They're playing together almost all the time. Because I don't know if you watch the Steelers, but they don't take linebackers off the field. They just roll them out to guard wide receivers. They don't care. So they're both going to stay on the field. Don't fret it. Don't fret it. It's going to be great. And whichever one of them earns the green dot, the whole team's going to be better for it. I promise. It's going to be fine. It's going to be fine. This is good. You only have reason to celebrate right now, and they might be few and far between if things go bad. So enjoy this moment because the sky, what is it? The ceiling is the roof.
The ceiling is the roof.
So yeah, it's been an active off season for the Steelers and an active couple weeks of preseason too. So it's been fun. I would just say everybody, keep an eye on Najee. He's gonna be jumping over people. Keep an eye on Dotson because he's mad. Anywhere, he's a big dude that's mad. He's gonna be knocking people over. Yeah. And keep an eye on Joe Schobert. I think he's wearing number 54 or 45 right now. That's gonna change, but that'll be fun. Middle linebackers. That'll be fun for the rest of preseason. Good place to watch the defense because the front seven's awesome. You don't have to fret that at all.
Yeah, I have no real gauge on how long to expect players to play in this shortened preseason. It's weird. Like for our whole lives, we've had the 4 games, and it's like a slow build to the 3rd game where they play a significant amount, and then you don't play any. It's all bubble guys on the 4th game, and like I have no clue what things are supposed to look. There is no supposed to look like. I don't know.
Yeah. Plus, you have some of these younger coaches like McVay saying like, "Yeah, I'm just not going to play my starters at all. I'm not doing it."
Yeah, it's like I'm sure there's
that's just
like
a philosophy that's growing.
Analytics and things happening, and who knows.
I think it's stupid, but whatever. Like nobody can predict injuries.
Yeah,
they just happen when they happen. But I guess we can move on from the Steelers. I mean, you already canceled out half my sweet Hall of Fame celebration. By the way, those Hall of Fame statistics about all the teams came from Dustin Turner from Stadium Talk. So just so you know, I give credit to other capital J's when they're doing good work.
Fellow capital J's.
Fellow capital J's. That's right.
That's right.
This is hard work, Joey.
It really
I'm
is.
Out
it
here.
really is like sometimes especially watching like teams I'm not as particularly interested in, like the Browns and the Bengals backups. Like it is work sometimes, but I did not have a problem digging a little bit deeper into some of this preseason and training camp fun that the Baltimore Ravens are having. And by fun, I mean lots of people aren't playing. But we'll focus on the positives. And the Ravens showed a lot of depth, specifically defensively. This ball game was like defense city for guys. Starters didn't really play. None of the defensive line starters played. In fact, Justin Matabike, who's been kind of a training camp year 2 darling, that the Ravens are excited about started in the middle alongside Broderick Washington. Both those guys will very likely make the club. Dalen Hayes, I think he's a third round draft pick, and Odafe Owe got a lot of play. Jalen Ferguson is a name that we've talked about a lot as a bubble guy for a couple years. Sack Daddy, I think, is his handle on Twitter. He got that nickname somewhere along the way. He played like all game
I bet
long.
that's the self.
Yeah,
I think he gave that
you
nickname
go
to
from
himself.
like being I don't know where he went to college. Some like small ass school. So like, when you're the hot shit at like McNeese State or wherever, like you're the Sack Daddy. Props to him.
You are the Sack Daddy of McNeese.
It's gonna be interesting to see as far as like roster construction goes, whether he makes the team, or whether they keep like an extra corner safety. There's a lot of really crowded rooms. But talking about Dalen Hayes, showed some bend and got some QB hits on what should have been intentional grounding on Jameis Winston, but we're not going to get into game flow things here. Odafe Owe
Don't get
was
butthurt about that.
gunning on punts, getting pressure. Things were awesome there.
Dude, he missed the easiest sack in the world. And
He did
I'll tell
totally
you
whiff
what,
on it, and the first thing that I thought
managing
of was college, and no sacks at college. And I was like, ugh.
I'm telling you, it takes work to keep a 0 streak like that alive. And he put the work in. He put that work in because he literally had his arms around him and he just like folded down to the ground, like while hugging. He was kind of like a child hugging their parents' knees, and then he just fell to the ground in a tantrum. Pathetic, dude. Finish the tackle. First round pick. Come on.
You're 6'5", 250. Fucking bring a guy down every once in a while.
Dude, he had him in his grasp.
Two starters that did play on the defense were Patrick Queen and Malik Harrison. Patrick Queen was gosh dang everywhere. We already know he's a super athletic freak. He blew up a screenplay. He had a sack. Deshaun Elliott played, and then he recovered a fumble, and then he didn't play anymore. That's it for like.
I'd like to jump back.
Go ahead.
Yeah, let's jump back to the middle linebackers because that's what I focused on. Both Malik Harrison and Queen started. I noted that because if the Ravens defense has a question mark, it's kind of been the performance of the middle linebackers and how they drop into pass coverage and some of these other things. And Patrick Queen's kind of intelligence, is he reading the kind of nuances of the defense because the Ravens do a lot of funny stuff. So I thought overall they looked good. As you noted, they both had splash plays. I think Malik forced a fumble near the goal line, which was a really nice open field hit. And he had a fumble recovery later. And Patrick Queen's sack, while it was relatively lame by sack standards, he literally fell down after getting blocked, and then the quarterback rolled out to him. He still finished the play with his closing speed. And the one thing I'm going to note, I'm going to see if this is a concern for you or if you noticed it. I thought that both players played really well in space. Like whenever they had any room to roam, which seems like it should be most of the time with the D line being as good as it is, they really did nicely, but they did not get off blocks. Like if anybody got to them, they were like washed right out of there. So it felt like they were either blowing it up entirely or it was like a 9-yard gain.
Yeah. And that's something that Patrick Queen, being kind of an undersized guy, we expected. And Malik Harrison should be able to handle himself better. But
that's kind of what I thought.
Been kind of thrust into this starting position, and it'll be interesting to see how that develops. Obviously, having Calais Campbell, and Brandon Williams, and these guys up in front of them will certainly help keep them clean. But yeah, that's definitely something to keep an eye on.
That's definitely who I'm going to be watching when the starters are in. Patrick Queen is number 6. Malik Harrison's number 40. They both play, middle linebacker right behind the defensive line. Keep an eye on them. Keep an eye on them as they crash the line of scrimmage. Are they able to crash through gaps, which is kind of how like Patrick Queen blew up that screenplay, or are they able to disconnect from an offensive lineman that's sort of making their way to him? I thought they struggled with that. No big deal. Preseason week 1, just something to keep an eye on.
Yep.
Your team sucks.
And to wrap up our embarrassment of riches talk about depth on the Ravens defense, we'll move to probably the strongest unit on the whole team, the defensive secondary. You know, I think Marlon Humphrey played like a drive or so.
They both did. Him and Peters, I
And
saw.
Peters. So you've got Humphrey, Peters, Tavon Young, and then you've got this like second group of guys. Obviously, Deshaun Elliott is back there. That's like led by Anthony Averett, who filled in a lot
And
last
Jimmy
year
Smith when he's not
with all
hurt.
the injuries. Yeah. And then like Anthony Averett's like the leader of this like young guy gang, like Geno Stone, Ardarius Washington, the rookies, Sean Wade, who I think played okay. He got like he was on the bad end of some receptions late in the game. Brandon Stevens was everywhere. If you guys don't remember from the draft recap, Brandon Stevens was the guy that played running back at UCLA and then transferred to SMU and was converted to, I think, a corner. And they're kind of using him as like this joker defensive back that Wink Martindale loves to use, where like he's a corner sometimes, and then sometimes he's a safety. They had him in the slot. They had him as a dime corner. So he, I thought, had a great game. He was another guy that was kind of everywhere around the ball, especially late in the game when the backups were in. I think it could spell trouble for like Anthony Levine. I know you listen to Film Study podcast. The Ravens definitely have some trade potential for like preseason trades if they can get some value for some guys in that secondary. Other than the rookies, they're usually not big on cutting rookies. So the defensive secondary was awesome. Geno Stone had 2 interceptions. And they were both just products of him being in the right position. Neither of them were like super incredible plays, balls that just kind of found him. But he was where he needed to be, kind of a la like a Minkah Fitzpatrick sometimes.
Yeah. One of them found him by way of a guy named Chris Westry, who's real popular with Ravens fans right now because he's like 6'4", which is kind of crazy for a corner. And he showed some real nice trailing coverage on a play and tipped the ball to Geno Stone. And the reason I wanted to highlight him, because he probably won't make the team, is that he also got a personal foul for doing the Dikembe Mutombo finger wag after a pass defense, which, look, I respect it.
The emphasis on the taunting.
What can I say?
Is going to be brilliant.
And I also want to know to our listeners that I'm extremely fair. So when I make fun of your team, it is like 130% justified. And this is how I'm going to prove it. Sean Wade is a player that I'm going to continue to make fun of as often as possible because he stank last year. But he ended the game with a really nice interception on a deep ball down the sideline in which he, turned his head. That is something that many NFL corners never learn to do. He found the ball, and he turned in his body on the run and high pointed the ball for an interception on deep pass down the sideline. It was like excellent coverage and all the skills that you want. So he's supposedly a guy that excels in the slot, stinks when you move him outside. So his interception came on the outside on a deep route. So nice job, Sean, at least on that play.
Yeah, and it's funny because the juxtaposition to that play is like he probably had the most noticeably weak game compared to all the other guys. Like you mentioned, Westry. Westry was everywhere. Every time you turned around, and he wears like number 30 or something. It's like, oh,
Yeah.
Who's this
Yeah.
guy? So yeah, there's a ton of talent back there, and it'll be interesting to see what happens after this next game and kind of see how that unit gets pared down. Geno Stone's been like a practice squad guy for a couple years, and if he keeps playing like he is, then he's going to be hard to hide on a practice squad or not on a 53-man.
Well, that's what happened last year. They put him on the practice squad and he got poached. Yeah. He went to it was either Dallas or Buffalo, and then they re-signed him this offseason. So yeah, it already happened with him. He is a guy that has already been poached. So we'll see what they decide to do with him. Do you want to talk about your shitty offense at all?
Yeah, we can talk about the shitty offense. I think it is it's probably not of note. It doesn't matter. Preseason game flow. So shitty offense. The defense forced 6 turnovers in this game. They had 2 fumbles.
Offense, Joey.
And an interception in the first quarter, and the Ravens only scored 17 points. That's pretty bad. And it wasn't like turnovers galore. It was just Trace McSorley looked like absolute butt for the whole first half, really. Turns out he has back spasms. But the O-line has been like a mash unit, and I'd say the O-line is probably the weakest position group on the team, especially as far as depth is concerned. And depth aside, there's a lot of question marks about who's going to play where. Guys have been moving around a lot since last season, and guys are all kinds of hurt. And so Ben Powers hasn't been playing, and Ben Cleveland has a concussion. It's a hot mess. So,
well,
go ahead.
Well, I just wanted to say that I'm just thoughts and prayers to Trace McSorley, because I heard that he was lifting boxes before the game and hurt his back. And I know exactly how this happened because I've moved a few times. And the last time that I moved, my wife packed boxes entirely full of books. And I'll tell you what, those books, you can't pack a whole box full of books. And I have a feeling that Trace McSorley thought that he was just picking up, one of those boxes is just filled with all the extra stuff in your office drawers. You got a box full of books, that is, you can't pack the whole box full of books. And that's what got him. It's gotten me. Classic. So I'm there. I am there for you, Trace. If you need someone to talk to, I set up a hotline. We'll put it in the link, and it's going to be okay. Like, you're going to recover. I'm fine now. A little bit of yoga, a little bit of hot yoga, stretching every day. You're going to be fine. You're going to be a backup quarterback again someday. You're going to lead your team to a near loss, and the guy that's better than you is going to go take a poop. He's going to come out, and he's going to throw a game-winning touchdown, and you're going to high-five him. It's going to be so great. It's going to be great. But what I really watched this game, because none of the players that I wanted to watch were playing, and I watched the game late. I wanted to watch James Prochet because all I can remember is my own takes, and it's that James Prochet is the best wide receiver on the Ravens, and he's been having a crazy good camp.
Yeah.
Dude, he's killing. But he only got 1 catch, so I decided not to watch him. And on the TV tape, you can't see what they're doing anyway. They run off the screen, and then you just hope they catch the ball sometime. So I decided to watch Ben Powers because they didn't give the starting left guard job to Ben Cleveland, And if he doesn't win it, it's going to be Ben Powers that does. If I learned something, it's that you hope Ben Cleveland is good because Powers stinks. He stunk so much, Joey. He got like bull rushed back into McSorley. He had holding penalties. He had holding penalties that weren't called. Then they moved him to tackle, and he had holding penalties that weren't called there. Like, dude, I don't even know how he could sleep at night after that performance. It was embarrassing. You can't have him start, right? Like, you can't.
We'll see.
Tell you what, dude, it
Zeitler,
wasn't good.
I mean,
It,
Zeitler
Zeitler's on the other side.
hasn't been playing. Right. And so Cleveland was out with a concussion. So like those are the starting guards, ideally. I think is the
But
plan.
Cleveland's a rookie.
Yep, he sure is.
We haven't even seen him play. We don't even know if he's any good. I mean, he's strong, but we don't know if he's actually good, you know?
You're right. He's big. He's wide.
This I just want you to hold on to this moment because you're going to be doing this nonsense come up week 1 and you're going to be like, the Ravens have the best rushing attack in the history of football. Here's a table with some numbers that I found on the internet. These are some stats. And I'm going to be like, dude, your offensive line has been slowly falling apart for 2 years and it keeps getting worse. And like, you need some of these guys to actually play good.
Counterpoint.
And they did not.
Counterpoint. It's easier for a shitty offensive line to run block than pass block.
Yeah, we'll see. I mean, I'm pretty sure your 2 starting running backs combined for like 8 yards on 8 carries. So whatever was easier was nothing in
The starting
preseason week
offensive
1.
line wasn't there.
Your starting offensive line couldn't have been there because they don't exist right now.
And the threat
Like,
of
they're not.
Trace McSorley passing to Devin Duvernay and James Prochet and Eric Tomlinson is like not insane.
Dude, James Prochet is going to make a Pro Bowl on another team in like 2 years.
On the Steelers.
It's going to be awesome. We have too many good players, but my fingers are like crossed so hard right now that I almost am breaking them.
James Prochet is going to go to like the Rams, and McVay's going to turn him into a god.
He's going to be like Wes Welker, but cool.
Yeah.
Wicked cool.
You know,
it's going to be awesome. Really important thing I wanted to ask you about. This really pertains to like all the success the Ravens could possibly have this season. How did you like Lamar Jackson's chain?
It was awesome.
Did you notice it?
The shield. It was fucking sick. Yeah.
Was that like the Baltimore logo situation? Was that
it's
the Ravens shield thing?
Yeah, the shield from the sleeve of the uniform.
I will give him a tentative AFC Northcast Steeler Chad stamp of approval if and only if I see it pop out when he's actually playing. I need to see that he's wearing it during the game.
I don't think he does wear any jewelry during the game. So
that's what it's going to take.
That's what it's going to take.
We'll
send a letter to One Winning Drive in Owings Mills and let them know. Yeah, offensive notes, not a ton. Basically, it seems like this preseason is going to be a whole bunch of Devin Duvernay and James Prochet battling for the last wide receiver spot. Justice Hill might be in some trouble, depending on how useful he can be in special teams. Young man number 34, Tyson Williams, looked pretty good and got pretty lots of action in the game. And Tyler Huntley, who is probably definitely stylistically more like Lamar Jackson than Trace McSorley, pigmentation aside, is going to be the QB2, presumably, because Trace McSorley will not play anymore in the preseason. So that's exciting. But Tyler
Tyler
Huntley was
Huntley.
electric. So, yay.
You know what? I said it was Trace McSorley's wife or girlfriend that packed that box full of
It
books,
was Tyler
books, but
Huntley.
I think it was actually Tyler.
Slips
It
a
was Tyler
bunch of
Huntley.
books in
He
there.
packed that. He put one towel on top of that box, and he was like, "This backup QB job is mine." That son of a biscuit. He Tanya Hardinged Trace McSorley. I'm not saying it. People are saying it.
Yeah, that's what you're
People are
hearing.
saying it.
Chad's got his ear to the streets.
Look,
If you
that's how
look at
news
the
works these days,
surveillance
Joey.
footage of when Trace McSorley hurt his back, Tyler Huntley's peeking around the corner like this.
Yeah,
QB2,
exactly.
come to daddy. But that's
Exactly.
it. That's all I
Well,
have for my Ravens stuff. Keep an eye. The secondary is really talented. It's going to be really fun to watch. Those guys battle for roster spots. Tyler Huntley is at the very least going to be fun to watch in the preseason. Whether it is
yeah.
tremendously good or tremendously awful, it's going to be tremendous. And
And if you're a Ravens fan that likes watching big people, we didn't talk much about him because I didn't focus on him, and Joey did introduce him. Justin Madubuike is number 92. He's right in the middle of the defensive line, and he's tossing people around like rag dolls. So if you like watching big people do that sort of thing, he's the guy you want to watch. He's going to get all sorts of playing time this preseason, and he's good. And that's really great news if you're a Ravens fan, because the rest of their offensive line or defensive line is like 65 years old or more.
Yeah.
Yeah, so he's the future. So fun guy to watch.
All right. Well, let's head to Cincinnati, where the Bengals took on the
first thing-
defending Super Bowl champion.
No. That's not the most important lead story here.
Okay.
Cincinnati has a Hall of Honor, Joey. Cincinnati has a Hall of Honor. They actually celebrate their own history now, okay? This is a big deal. We talked about it the last time we podcast. The season ticket holders were going to get to vote. Anthony Munoz, their only Hall of Fame player, and Paul Brown, their Hall of Fame owner, coach. Both? I can't remember. Shoot. Sorry. Were the automatic inductees, and then they got to vote on the other two. They're inducting 4 initial members into the Hall of Honor. The members were chosen. Joey, drumroll. That you can't hear that. You got to do this. No. Ken Anderson and Ken Riley were the inductees. Very deserved. They both showed up in our Facebook poll of greatest Bengals all time.
Sure did.
Our
Credit to
people
us.
that subscribe are extremely ignorant and basically had them all lose in the first round. Yeah. Ken Anderson was the Bengals quarterback for like 15 years, from the 70s to the late 80s. He was the quarterback of their team that lost to San Francisco in the Super Bowl. He's been an MVP of the league. He was an MVP. He won the MVP. No Steeler has won the MVP since I've been watching. So that's pretty cool. It's a cool thing to have happen. Joey, tell everybody how cool it is when someone on your team wins an MVP.
It's pretty sick. Yep.
Yeah. It doesn't even matter if you flame out in the first round embarrassingly. You have that to hold on to. Like, it's a big deal. It matters. Yeah. That doesn't, none of that. You don't even remember that. You just remember the MVP. So this is all very cool. Ken Anderson, really deserving. Great. He's the best Bengals quarterback of all time. And then there's Ken Riley. And none of us know who Ken Riley is because he played a long time ago. Let me tell you a little bit about Ken Riley. He's 5th all time in interceptions with 65. Do you know who has less interceptions than Ken Riley? How about Charles Woodson, who just went into the Hall of Fame this year? How about Ed Reed? How about Ronnie Lott? Dick LeBeau, Mel Blount. These are people that we care about in the AFC North. Ken Riley is above them in interceptions. Do you know what all those players have in common, except for Ken Riley?
What, Chad?
They're in the Hall of Fame.
Mhm.
They're in the Hall of Fame. We need to get Ken Riley in the Hall of Fame. And you know where it starts? Locally. Locally. That's why it's good that Cincinnati is celebrating their history. Look, they've had a lot of bad teams. We call them the Bungles. We do it lovingly. We do it lovingly. We call them the Bengals lovingly. We have a lot of affection for the Bungles. Ken Riley was no bungle. He was a great player, very deserving. Bengals, Hall of Honor, first 4 inductees, Anthony Munoz, Paul Brown, Ken Anderson, Ken Riley, 4. Very exciting. I almost did it this way with my ring finger down because it's easier for me to bend that than my pinky. I can't extend my ring finger when I bend my pinky down. It's a thing. So that's pretty cool news, and I wanted to share it because, look, we want to celebrate the whole AFC North, and that's a big deal. It's a big deal for Cincinnati fans, and it's really cool.
It is. Anything about the game you'd like to touch on?
No. No, yeah, I do. I've got stuff about the game. So the first thing I wanted to pay attention to about Cincinnati, very similar to the Ravens, I wanted to see who they trotted out at middle linebacker. Cincinnati notoriously never tackles running backs when they're handed the ball. So we wanted to check that out. And they started Logan Wilson, number 55, and Jermaine Pratt, who we've been tracking pretty closely since he's been drafted. And he's been a guy that's been progressing. Honestly, I had like no notes on them. They were basically, even though I was focused on watching them, not really doing anything worth writing about. So, look, some of that is good news because I have no jokes. I don't have anything to say about them that's funny, which means they didn't screw anything up extraordinarily badly. Also, though, other side of the coin, they didn't really do anything. But they've got another cool linebacker, Akeem Davis Gaither, kind of in the mold of a guy we're going to get ready to talk about on the Browns pretty soon. And he really flashed. So he was fun. I think he had a sack. He was running around fast, making tackles. He's number 59. He's a fun guy to watch if you watch Bengals preseason football, which, well, there's stuff that you have to ask yourself about your quality of life if that's what you're doing. But he's fun. I think the really big one, though, there's 2 big ones that we need to cover. And since we're already on defense, we'll stick with it. It's number 58, outside linebacker, Joseph Osai. He was their 3rd round pick. We talked about him, obviously, during the draft after. High motor, super fun. Dude, this mother trucker just sacked Tom Brady. He sacked Tom Brady, and you know how he did it? By running around Tristan Wirfs, who apparently gave up 1 sack last year. Now, according to my sources, he didn't technically beat Tristan Wirfs. It was like a pass-off situation, and someone else kind of screwed it up. But dude, when someone really good is standing in front of you, and you pass them, you run right past them, and then you sack a cheating bastard, basically, that has a bunch of false trophies. Like, it feels good. It feels so good. It feels so good. And that wasn't all he did. He was all over the place for like 3 quarters. He was playing all game. Downside, maybe broke his wrist in the 3rd quarter. So that's unfortunate because we were very excited. He was really looking to start. Let me pull up my phone notes because I had him in as a backup, but I was it's really hard to see who's actually playing all the time. Their pass rush, first series of the game, was Osai, who got the sack on Tom Brady. They moved Sam Hubbard, number 94, who's a veteran that they just re-signed, inside. He normally will be on the outside on running downs. He's a pretty good high motor guy, great against the run. Cam Sample, their 4th round rookie, who I didn't really follow this game because I could only follow a couple guys at a time. He was on the inside. And then Hendrickson, their free agent signing, was on the other side of the pass rush. So if you're watching those Bengals preseason, well, it would have been fun to watch third downs, but now Osai's injured. But kind of an interesting little situation they have there. And on running downs, they move Sam Hubbard out and they bring in DJ Reader, he's really good.
Hmm.
So there's actually a chance that the Bengals defense is better. Um, well, it better be more than a chance, but that was fun. He really played well, and so the Bengals have something to be excited about there. Do you want to comment on Osai at all, or did you catch him in his performance?
Yeah, I mean, it was impossible to even start to watch the Bengals game and not notice him. Um,
Yeah,
he was everywhere. Hopefully, they can like slap a hard club on that hand, and he can at least go a little bit. I think the defense is definitely improved. You got Mike Hilton in there, DJ Reader. There's another guy in the middle. Oh my God.
Tupou, the
Yep,
only man
Josh
that's ever
Tupou.
tackled Lamar Jackson. He's the only man that's ever tackled Lamar Jackson.
They're going to be a nice little interior line tandem. And then you already talked about the upgraded pass rush. Chidobe Awuzie is another free agent corner that they signed, he's kind of their defensive like training camp darling, outside of Osai, who's like an
And
electric guy.
and Trey Waynes has never actually played a game for them.
Yeah,
Free agent last year,
yeah.
corner.
So there's a lot to be
Um,
excited about, other than the obvious like Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase type of shit that gets all the headlines and stuff.
yeah, I think legitimately, if you're a Cincinnati fan, the only thing standing in the way of this defense, and this is sad because it's a pretty big thing, it's Lou Anarumo, and he's the defensive coordinator. I
Yeah.
think he's pretty bad. He might be able to derail a lot of talent, and we're about to find out. I have, I have a feeling, I have a feeling even with all this talent, Lou might be able to muck it up. But we'll see. So hopefully, the X-rays are still out as of moments before we started recording this here on Tuesday evening. So we'll see if Joseph Asai's wrist is broken. He might be able to get back for week one. Even so, though, as a rookie, you want him to play those preseason snaps. So I would just temper your expectations. I know he sacked Tom Brady, and so he's gonna like have like 25 this year. Maybe lower it down to like 18. And then you won't be that sad when he gets like four. Um, on offense, okay, if there's a Bengals fan listening, this is the bad news. The whole draft debate was based on Penei Sewell and Jamar Chase and fixing the offensive line versus pairing up the space cadets of all-time statistical anomalies of college football. And the Bengals chose the principle of pairing up the Space Cadets and thinking there was tons of offensive line talent later in the draft. And then they got really ahead of themselves and actually traded backwards in the second round instead of taking one offensive lineman. And then they took a guy, Jackson Carman, who a lot of people thought maybe wasn't the best guy left. And we're like, well, maybe the Bengals know what they're doing. Spoiler alert, I'm not sure they know what they're doing, Joey. He
The
isn't
two
very
man
good.
scouting department.
It's four. It's four. So A, Jackson Carman has spent a lot of training camp with the third team. If you are listening to this podcast and you don't know a lot about sports, the third team is two people below who's on the field. So that's not very good. Um, it's been a bit of a struggle. And he was kind of supposed to be first team, which is on the field. So for this preseason game, he was second team, getting better, behind one Michael Jordan, famous for allowing the interior pass rush that destroyed your hero Joe Burrow's knee in the first place. And now still a starter because your presumed starter isn't very good. So he stank. He stank bad, Joey. I watched him. He's all I watched. All I watched was Jackson Carman. I just watched him play the whole time. He's not good. That's not totally fair. If you run like in whatever the play is where you hand the ball to the running back and he runs like between the center and the guard like a dive just straight. He's pretty good. He just like grabs his guy. He's pretty strong and he can create movement. He's got strength. But if you ask him to, I mean, like two steps in any direction, any sort of sweep, any sort of anything, and don't even get me started on what happens in the second level. Like he can't, he's not getting a hand on a linebacker or a safety. That's a joke. That is a joke. It's a funny joke in my tight five. Um, it was ugly, dude. It was ugly, and he played a lot. It was like I was making fun of Ben Powers, but like this is actually this is the poor performance of the week for sure. Like this is not good. It's not good, Joey. It's not good.
Doom and gloom for Jackson Carman.
And he's a rookie. Like he might eventually be good, but like, dude, he just stinks. He just stinks. Oh man, he's just not good, dude. Good news though, Jonah Williams, he played like one series. I thought he looked pretty sharp. He was, I mean, he didn't play long, but like they got him out on a screen, and he got way out ahead of it. He got his hands on a linebacker, who faster guy, and he pancaked him without even like putting effort into it. Wasn't even There was not even malice. It was just like a professional pancake where he sort of just like, like I have to do this. I'm sorry. And he just kind of tossed him to the ground and then just like trotted back to the line of scrimmage. It was very professional. So a lot to like about him. But yeah, I think let's just focus on Jamar Chase and Joe Burrow. Let's just do that. They didn't play much. Jamar did, but whatever. Joe wasn't throwing on the ball. So we're going to want to focus on the skill players, a lot of good skill players. And we're just going to try and ignore the interior of the defensive line, particularly that left guard position, probably.
All right, there you go. Bengals also announced today Joe Burrow will not play this week either. So,
And that's fine.
we'll see.
There's been some headlines about him having a slow start to camp. But he's been picking up. He's been getting better every time. Look, dude, the dude tore his ACL. Give him a break, dude. Of course you're going to have a slow start. Do you realize how big the people are that are like falling on you? It's scary. It's scary when you had your body tear apart because of it. You gotta get back into it mentally. He's going to be fine. He's going to be good. His skill positions are excellent. He's got at least one good offensive lineman by my count, maybe two. We'll see. So it's gonna be fine. It's gonna be fine. But Jackson Carman stinks, so they blew it.
Speaking of stinking, let's take a virtual trip to the city of Cleveland. Stinky.
Oh yeah.
Stinky.
I thought we were done.
Home of the Guardians. One thing that does not stink, and I feel needs to lead the story of the Browns preseason, is one Jeremiah Owusu Koromoa. I think I said that right. Affectionately known as
You said it,
J-O-K.
J-O-K.
Yep.
Oh, I nailed that. Come on.
Synergy. That's synergy. My first note on is just speed, and there's like a zillion E's in there. I got excited and I started typing after JOK had his sack. And it's really good. We all knew that JOK was like an athletic freak of nature, hybrid, new age prototype, whatever you want to say, in the mold of like Isaiah Simmons type of guy. And it was really, really great to see the translate to some sort of professional venue. I know the preseason is just the preseason, but if you're a Browns fan, you're really, really excited about JOK. So he had the sack. That was a great play. He had another splash play on a screen pass, which that's what you love to see. The Browns, the last couple years, have been very, very susceptible to the screen game. If you're a Browns fan and you watch lots of Browns football, you have grown accustomed to the defensive line just aggressively pursuing and blowing past and getting schmurdered by the screen game. JOK is very, very fast and hopefully will make some strides towards cleaning up that vulnerability, especially if you find yourselves, I don't know, in the playoffs against the Chiefs, who run lots of fancy screen shit. That being said, he had a rookie mistake. There was one play, and I have some fun statistics about it. So Colin Johnson was the offensive player that he was covering. In the first frame of Colin Johnson makes his cut, JOK goes the wrong way and is trailing now. He's 4.39 yards away. And he closes that gap in 1.3 seconds to tackle Colin Johnson for no gain, registering the top speed of any player on the field at 14.79 miles per hour. Translation: he's really fucking fast, and he's going to make mistakes. He's a rookie linebacker. Those of us in Baltimore know that all too well after watching Patrick Queen last year. But he is more equipped than even Patrick Queen, who is an athletic, undersized, fast middle linebacker, to make up for some of that with his raw talent. And that is something that Mac Wilson doesn't bring to the table. Taki doesn't bring to the table. Like, it's something that the Browns haven't had in a while, and it's pretty exciting.
Dude, you must be having crazy emotions right now, because between drafting basically a JV version of JOK last year in the first round and the Browns getting this guy in the second round, and then watching the Ravens drop Oweh into coverage and have him just getting toasted repeatedly, and then watching JOK get have this kind of stuff happen, you gotta love him, but you gotta hate yourself a little bit. And look, I'm going through it too. Devin Bush was the same deal. He's been getting burnt down the seam by tight ends for it would be 2 years now if he played. I promise. But he got injured. It was maybe a blessing for me, and I do not cheer for injuries, especially for my team, so please don't take that the wrong way. It's a funny joke. It's not an offensive one. He was so fun. He's just so fun. If you're a Browns fan right now, you have a favorite player, and I probably, is 28, right? He's number 28 because he plays linebacker, but he's always in the league. He's number 28. And the thing, you covered it really beautifully, so I'm not going to add too much. But the one thing I will say that makes me confident of all the things we saw in week 1 of the preseason that I think we're going to continue to see, because he did play against the starters, he was making confident, smart reads. He was, I think he's smart. I think he knows what he sees, and it allows him to harness his speed most time. Now, you were right that he misread the one pass coverage, and of course everybody makes mistakes sometimes, but part of the reason he was able to shoot these gaps for his, tackles for loss and effect in the running game and stuff is he looked comfortable. He looked comfortable in the defense and reading things. And I know that seems a little presumptuous that I'm getting in his head, but look, that's what we're paid to do. That's why you're listening to Joey and I, because we can do that. I know what he's thinking. I get it. We're the same, JOK and I and Joey. the same. Patrick Queen, like just half step below.
Mm.
So it's exciting, super exciting. And for the record, he was their second round pick. And it should be noted that their first round pick, also excellent. Also just excellent. Cleveland's starting corners in this game were Greedy Williams, who's had a nerve injury and sat out all of last year. He's number 26 if you're trying to keep track. And Greg Newsome, who was their first round pick this year. They took him instead of JOK. A lot of teams took a lot of people instead of JOK. There may be regrets right now. And Newsome was awesome. And there's two plays that I think are worth highlighting. And the first one is a successful play. And I don't remember all the details, but basically it was like 3rd and let's say 7. And he was covering the receiver, and the receiver ran a comeback route. And he showed understanding of the yards to gain and great response time to allow the catch, but make the tackle before the first down was gained. So it led to a punt. So it was just like savvy play. Again, intelligence. Like he wasn't freaking out about, being in the NFL or stadiums or any of that stuff. So pretty cool. Crazy. There's an animal making some sort of crazy noise. I thought it was my daughter. And then the other play was the big reception that he actually gave up. It was Trevor Lawrence's best play. It's all over all the social media. It's all over everything. He had, I'm going to say 26 seconds in the pocket. And after 24, he unleashed this beautiful, arcing, perfect Trevor Lawrence spiral down the deep middle of the field. Marvin Jones jumps up. Greg Newsome jumps up. And Marvin Jones is able to haul in the pass despite Newsome getting his arm in there and for a contested catch. It's a really beautiful play. Two things. Greg Newsome was in his back pocket after 26 seconds.
Yeah.
Yeah. And two, he had his arm right between. Like it was all the technique was there. This is a guy that scored like 10 plus TDs. If you play fantasy football, you draft Marvin Jones in the 11th round of your draft and you get 12 TDs on your fantasy team for free. He's a good player. So this was great. Like I was really impressed. The Browns should just be so psyched right now about these two youngsters on their defense. Really awesome stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, they
I
really
want to make fun of them, but they're just good.